The lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic are still doing havoc on the stability of our mental health. The National Alliance of Mental Illness reports that adolescents between the ages of 12 and 17, 1 in 6 of them are experiencing a severe bout of depression. 3 million of them have had major thoughts about suicide, and by a clip of 31%, they've increased their mental health trips to the emergency room. As for adults, ages 18 to 25, 1 in 3 of them have experienced mental illness. 1 in 10 out of every American has experienced severe mental illness, and 3.8 million have had major thoughts of suicide. Jason Hopcus is on a mission to do something about this troubling trend. He currently serves as the President and CEO of Arapahoe and Douglas Counties, National Alliance of Mental Illness, or NAMI. He is also the founder of the Connection Project, a for-profit company. He's on a mission to advance human connection by embracing conversations. And he joined me this week to tell me more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to learn all about what you do to help advance our world forward and just that much closer to societal progress, my friend. Great to see you today, and thank you so very much for being here.
It's great to be here, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
So you're absolutely welcome, and I wanted to start our conversation by asking you just to give me sort of a 360-degree view of what makes you so incredibly fabulous, because I know you dive into some important work. So I'm wondering if you can share that with me today.
You know what? That is kind of you to say it that way. I don't know that I can honor that commitment, but I'll do my best to introduce myself. So I'm Jason Hopcus. I am the President and CEO of the National Alliance on Mental Illness for Arapahoe and Douglas Counties here in Colorado. We're a suburb of Denver, Colorado. And I am the founder and president of an organization called Connection Project. My work is really based on the tenets of mental health and recognizing that if you have a brain, you have mental health. Therefore, we all have mental health. So my soapbox is really about how do we get people more deeply connected to themselves and others. You know, we've had some challenging times over the last few years. Collectively, we've all been through an experience that has affected us. And, you know, frankly, people are struggling at alarming rates. And I am an advocate and supporter of believing that if you are struggling, finding support should not be so hard. We should make those supports more readily available and accessible to people if and when they are in crisis and or struggling. And most of my work is centered on reminding people that you are not alone and that we have an opportunity together to make a difference. And often that looks like just reminding ourselves of the tools that we have available to us within ourselves to take action that can make a difference in how we are feeling or how we show up in the world. But but really the bulk of this work for me came from my own lived experience with a mental health struggle more than a decade ago, and really in recognizing that from my place of understanding education, privilege really, I say that humbly, that it was really hard to find support and a way to get connected during those darkest times. So my entire being is built on the foundation of showing up to serve others and ensuring when they go through struggles that it is not as challenging as it was for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Jason, since you shared a little bit about your story, I'll do the same
Great.
with mine. Jason, I was 9 years old when I found out that I would not be able to walk. So, I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy. Simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. And like you, I've worked my entire adult life to really spearhead cultural change within organizations because I have a background in inclusive employment and advocating on behalf of folks with disabilities to be fully included in the workforce. And I know that you're a big advocate and catalyst for cultural change. So in the space of mental health, tell me how critical is it that we all work together to strive for that cultural change within organizations where mental health is really put on the forefront?
That's a great question, Kevin. I think it's imperative that we work together, and primarily, and most importantly, for the from the understanding that we are all interconnected. I mean, we are all here having a human experience, and when you look at humans, make up the nucleus of organizations. The reality is healthier workforce creates healthier communities and healthier outcomes. So I think the thing that I really recognize, and having done this work for a long time, is we are still struggling to differentiate between mental illness and mental health. And I want to make very clear for your listeners, there is a vast difference in the two. I mean, mental illness is something like any other illness that you can get sick and struggle with, either for, a short period or an extended period, and some people over the course of a lifetime. But mental health is really like physical health. If you have a brain, you have mental health. And it's unfortunate that, our systems still don't fully integrate that brain-body connection in recognizing that, we may go through things in life, have setbacks, transitions, loss of a loved one, loss of a job. Something happens in our life that sets us back and we don't show up in our most ideal way. That can be identified and characterized as potentially poor mental health or something that you are struggling with. And I think the shorter line we can draw to connect that brain-body connection and pull that back into recognizing the individuals that make up our organizations, from a leadership perspective, and really recognizing that, again, everyone struggles, people go through things, and there is really a need to be able to close that gap and ensure that we are showing up to support people in the good and the bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And just building on that point, Jason, I'm curious to get your definition of what inclusion means to you in terms of societal inclusion, and how important is it to give everyone a purpose to aspire to in life?
I think it's everything. I mean, the reality is being able to look at people as individuals. The reason I love my concept around everyone struggles is struggle is one of those terms that is not scary. It is not sad. It is not traumatic. What it is a connecting word, in that if I understand the struggle within myself, it allows me to have empathy and see the struggle in other people. I may not be able to put myself in their shoes, but what I can do is recognize from my own place of understanding that we all struggle. And I think from being able to level set that conversation, it allows us to show up in the world from a more inclusive place. And I think recognizing the similarities and differences in other people as humans is so important in ensuring that we just put our best foot forward. I think everybody shows up in this lifetime to add value in some way, and some people, have a harder time unearthing or digging out what their light for the world is. But having setbacks or limitations in life, I don't think is a reason for us as society to assume somebody doesn't have a contribution to make. And the more authentically that we show up to see other people in their humanness and their human experience, I think the better outcomes we have in recognizing we are all the same and different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, Jason, that you're a staunch believer in making those authentic human connections, as you said, that allow individuals to live wholly and authentic. And, Jason, I also say that everyone's portrait of success is different, and that the only level of expectations that we all have to meet our own, because Jason, it's my belief that if you don't have your own standard of expectations, it's hard to achieve an artificial level of prosperity. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast, to have authentic conversations. So tell me, what does it mean to you to live authentically and to have authentic communications and conversations?
That's a great question, Kevin. I think living authentically really starts with the recognition of wherever you go, there you are. When you go to sleep at the end of the day, you're really accountable for how you showed up in the world and how you made an impact or not in the world. And I think by strengthening and deepening connection with yourself, it allows you to show up more authentically and more connectedly with others. And I think that foundation really kind of sets the tone for how you want to live your life. And frankly, when you look at it in that direction, it starts with making a personal choice around, this is how I want to show up. These are the things that I imagine for my life. Defining what success looks like for you. That doesn't have to look like what society tells you it should look like. You get to decide what feels like a successful, full, fruitful life for yourself. And then from there, really letting that information come into the funnel and deciding that you're going to, with each choice you make, show up in a way that aligns with what you've decided for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you've created a system that allows people to deepen their connection to themselves, their work, and their play. So I'm wondering if you can tell me all about the system you've created.
Yeah, so the system really is what we just talked about. It's you deciding what kind of life you want for yourself. And I mean, I subscribe to the reality that the universe is unlimited. Call it what you like, could be God, could be universe, whatever. But for broad terms, we're going to call it universal energy. It's unlimited. And in that limitlessness, I think any of us have the ability to make a choice and decide to go in a direction that fits for us. And even if you are in a situation that feels like despair, that feels like hopelessness, there is an opportunity to shift your mindset and move towards whatever outcomes it is that you desire. And I'm going to say that from a place, a deep place of understanding, in knowing when I was going through my dark night of the soul more than 10 years ago, really recognizing that it felt like there was no light, there was no hope, there was no way out. For me, I had this mustard seed of faith that I really stayed steadfast with, in recognizing that if I made it through those darkest times, I was going to show up and serve others. So for me personally, what that kind of life looks like, that deeper connection life, started with me finding that connection myself, and then secondarily giving back, even if I didn't feel like I had everything I needed to give myself, but to serve others. And what I learned, Kevin, from doing that was being in service allows us to get out of our own way, to be able to see the humanity in somebody else and to show up and to serve them, frankly, it to me is the recipe for any kind of sustainable success.
Yeah, and Jason, one of the reasons that I was excited to have a conversation with you today was because, I'm a staunch believer in promoting a mental health awareness and the importance of having these types of conversations. Because when you look at the mental health space, traditionally the resources aren't there or where they should be in terms of really adequately and exceeding the expectations when we look at mental health. So when you look at the bigger picture, I'm curious to ask you about where the progress is that we've made in mental health awareness and treating mental health, and where do you think we still need to go?
That is a great question, Kevin. I think to really be able to look at where we are, I think we have to take a look back on where we've been. And, we've all been through this pandemic over the nearly last 3 years, and recognizing that one of the gifts that came out of that, and I do believe it is a gift, irrespective of the loss of life and the tremendous deficits that were created because of it, is people are willing to talk about what they're struggling with in a way that they never were before. People are reaching out for help that would not have in a former life prior to the pandemic. And I think that is really inspiring. The downside of people reaching out for help is it has really put a burden on our system, and it has showed us the vulnerabilities and awareness of the fact that there is not enough supply of support resources to meet demand. And I think from that understanding, I move into, okay, recognizing that, what are the things that we can do to empower ourselves? What are the tools that we have in our toolbox right where we are? And I will say, in terms of shifting your mood state or making a difference, in the course of your day, getting sun on your head, taking a walk around the block, or getting some sort of physical activity. Did you drink enough water? Are you getting enough sleep? How is your nutrition? Are you practicing gratitude? Finding 3 things to be grateful for every day can be a huge improver of mood state. Those are tools that we have available and access to us 24/7, 365 days a year for free. So if you're not doing any of those things with commitment or consistency, maybe taking a look within and saying, what is something that I could commit to? Could I get 15 minutes of sun on my head every day? Could I write 3 things down that I'm grateful for every day? If you do that committedly, consistently, I guarantee you it will change your mood state. I'm not saying it will fix it or it will make a long-term sustainable difference necessarily, but what I am saying is it is taking a step to empower yourself with tools that you already have. Now, obviously, if that is not a deep enough intervention and you need to seek therapeutic help and or pharmacological help or support groups, whatever, reaching out and finding access to those helps or those supports is important. And I encourage anybody who is struggling to recognize that you have tools yourself and there is action that you can take right here, right now. And if you need something that is more intervening, to advocate for yourself to move forward. And if you can't do that, reach out to a loved one or a support person that you trust that can help you. I assure you, you are not alone, and there is help available if you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason, I know one of your core missions is to really make sure that people have a safe space to really value authentic human connections and having meaningful conversations, which, like I like to say, that move the needle of societal progress forward. So how do you think we can move the needle of societal progress forward and really create more bridges of unity?
I think it begins with continuing to talk about what we're struggling with. I think by showing up in our humanness, day by day, conversation by conversation, and just being in your most authentic self when you interact with others, I think that's how we change the conversation. Plus, I think it comes with recognizing mental health and mental illness are not the same. Again, mental health is like physical health. If you have a brain, you have a body, you have mental health, which we all have, and just being able to level set like any other illness. There are going to be good days and bad days in life. And I think this expectation that we are supposed to show up and do it perfectly and act like we have ourselves together in every moment on every occasion, I think it's a crock. The fact of the matter is we all go through ups and downs in life. That's part of being human. And I think allowing ourselves some grace and recognizing that goes a long way in the passive grace we can give for ourselves and then give to others by recognizing our own struggle and challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And just building on that, Jason, I know that you have a belief in sort of a state of mind when it comes to the current narrative, when it comes to mental health. Oftentimes people are afraid to share their mental health struggles for some of the reasons that we've discussed today. But tell me about how you view the current discussion around the narrative of mental health, and the power of vulnerability can also go a long way. Tanner, would you agree with that?
I am inspired by the progress we are making. Again, going back to people are talking about their struggle in a way that they wouldn't have previously. I do think that we have opened the door to realize that there is this vulnerability in society, that people are struggling with anxiety, depression, substance misuse disorders, whatever. I mean, take your pick. And I think by seeing people's ability and capacity to talk about what they are going through has cracked the door open to allow for more expansive conversations. And frankly, I think it is built on doing more of that. I cannot stress enough the importance of figuring out your own value system for yourself, finding your own authentic language that guides the course of your life, and being able to just show up in that light like you're doing, Kevin, in providing this amazing platform for people to connect. We need more of this. I think we have assumed that just because we carry this device in our hand all day, that we are actually connected through social media and other channels. And I think there is some implied connection to be found through there. But the reality is that there is no replacement for wholehearted conversation like this, or meeting up with a friend, or talking to somebody, about a topic that you're passionate about or interested in. I just think we have to do more of that. Really being ready to show up and do more of that. I think it's foundational.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason, in the few minutes that I have left with you, I'm going to give you the space to tell me about anything you further about the Connection Project and how people can get involved if they're so inclined to do that.
I would love to. So Connection Project was an organization that was, again, built to strengthen and deepen connection to ourselves and others. What that has evolved into is we primarily, I do a lot of business consulting. So I work with entrepreneurs, business owners, leaders, CEOs, et cetera, to help them look at where are they stuck or not getting the results they want in their business. And then my role is really guiding them to get unstuck. But outside of that, we do a lot of what I would look at as marketing and digital marketing support. So we will build social impact campaigns for what I consider are vulnerable or marginalized communities. Those communities that have high rates of struggle, substance use and misuse disorders, anxiety, depression, suicidal completion, ideation rates. Really look at those communities and then figure out, how do we do a better job getting them connected to resources and host conversations that can spark conversation and shift the narrative. So we will build these broad scale social impact campaigns. We will launch them nationally through digital marketing efforts, through social media, through radio spots, TV ads, etc. We have done that at scale over and over again. Specific communities. We do a lot of work with the responder community. We do a lot of work with youth. I mean, we've worked with middle-aged men. We've worked with moms. We've worked with vets and service members. So really being the connection point for inspiring, compelling conversation and creating connection to resources for those communities is the foundation of what we do. If somebody wants to connect with me to do individual coaching or business coaching and or build some sort of campaign, I'm really easy to find. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok under Connection Project, or my name, Jason Hopcus, Hopcus. And if you want to reach out to me directly, there are contact forms on my website, realpeoplereallife.org. If you send me a form, I will get it, and I am hugely responsive and will get back in touch with you.
Fabulous. And Jason, just before I let you go, I'm going to ask you the question that I end every podcast with, and that is when you look at your life, how do you want your personal and professional legacy to be remembered?
So for me, my personal legacy is that I did everything I could to change how the world sees mental health. And frankly, if I were to look back on my life, what I want to be able to reflect back on as my legacy is, did I show up authentically, and did what I do make an impact and have significance on helping and serving others?
Absolutely. Well, Jason, I really want to commend you for all of the strides that you've made in the mental health space, and thank you for engaging in conversation with me on this most important topic. Your work in the space and time on my behalf is most appreciated, and I want to thank you for being here today.
Kevin, thank you for having me as your guest. I appreciate the conversations that you are sparking interest in, and your role in serving as just a brilliant podcast host. It was a complete pleasure. Thank you.